record this. And so anyway, you can go there for any kind of information about today and other things that we're doing in the broadband, as far as broadband development, critical communications, and public safety technology. As a firefighter with Evergreen Fire Rescue, I actually started using the WeBoost Sleek, which is one of their entry-level models, a few months ago. And what I've noticed is that in areas where I traditionally didn't get any cell coverage, I was able to not only get cell coverage where calls would not get dropped, but I'm also able to, in a place where I don't particularly have a map or driving instructions, I've been able to use that device and put an address into Google Maps and not only get driving directions, but also it downloads a map. So for me, it's actually been a game changer, and it's helped me to extend my coverage. Obviously, with this technology as well as any other, there are always going to be things that are going to defeat it. But we are happy to have our presenter today, Tom Lerner. He's the Director of Carrier Partnerships with Wilson Electronics. And without anything else, I'm going to turn it over to you, Tom.
Thanks very much, Ed. Appreciate it. Let me request. I believe I have to request. Oh, you've given me control. Great. Let me know when that pops up, please.
There it is. You want to go full screen? Okay.
Great. So thanks for the introduction, Ed. And as Ed said, I'm Tom Lerner, Director for Carrier Partnerships here at the Business Development role with a focus on carriers, and actually met Ed through interaction for our public safety team, and appreciate that. And got some other members of the product organization with me here, so if there's any questions, feel free. We've got all the smartest people in the company here, so present company not included. So let me go on here and let you know what we're going to talk about today. So we'll just review who Wilson is, who we are, what we do, and some of the categories that we operate that we use our signal boosters in here. Spend a little time talking about our advantages over some of the other alternative forms of signal coverage enhancements, and then dig a little bit deeper into some of the products that apply specifically to the government, public sector, and public safety teams. So who we are, Wilson Electronics, we've been in the RF business for close to 50 years now, and signal boosters for about 17 or so, and a US-based company. We've got an RF design center down in Dallas. Our manufacturing and assembly is here in Utah, where I am today. We've got an office in Salt Lake, where most of the sales and marketing people are. And really, we've been focused on the protection of the cellular networks, and that's where a lot of our research and development and patents are. And that's why the carriers came to Wilson a few years ago, several years ago, because they realized that our protections that we had in our signal boosting amplifiers, that we really protect the network from either overloads or oscillations. So if there's anything that's possibly going to harm the network, our amplifiers are designed to shut down immediately and to not do that. So carriers realized that and worked with us and the FCC to get some rules put into place that have been in place since about 2014. And since then, all the carriers have signed on, given blanket consent for the use of our amplifiers, and they've even made statements that there's been tens of thousands of boosters registered on networks and not a single issue of interference by any of our boosters, anyone in this category since then. So our mission, we really take this seriously here. So our mission is to expand wireless network coverage to everyone, everywhere. And, we really feel like we are helping to make the world a better place in doing that. So whether it's a first responder, like Ed mentioned, about getting from an emergency worker, getting to the next call and picking up directions to the place after that, or just connecting families across the country to each other, I think that we feel like we play a role in making those people's lives better and their experiences better. So it's something that we do believe very, very seriously here at Wilson. First responders depend on our solutions in mission critical situations. Our solutions ensure you have mobile access anytime, anywhere. And when I talked about that FCC certification and registration rules that went into place a few years ago, it was really the first responders that gave us many testimonials saying that they could not do their job if we were not to have signal boosters today. So we've had a close relationship for most of Wilson's history. Product categories, these are really our pillars. We make amplifiers for vehicle solutions, for in-building, from everywhere from trailer size offices up into large offices and apartment buildings, as well as IoT M2M. So we have amplifiers that can plug directly into an LTE-enabled router, such as a Cradlepoint, Sierra Wireless, any of those types of companies that have an LTE or any cellular connection. We can go straight into those devices and provide a signal either through just an antenna or through an inline amplifier that'll send the signal all directly into it. And we'll talk about a little bit of all of those. So really, coverage where it matters most. All of our repeaters essentially function the same way, whether they are for a vehicle or for a building or for those M2M IoT machines. So we are always talking to the tower. So we're 100% over the air. The signal comes in we pick up that signal with an outdoor antenna, either on the roof of a car or the roof of a building. That signal goes in through a coax cable into an amplifier that is inside the car or the building, and then rebroadcast it out through a series of one or more indoor antennas. So we stay 100% connected to the wireless network, which has a lot of advantages. You're not being routed through whatever cable company happens to own the internet if you were trying to use a device that plugs into the internet. So you've got the security, you've got the stability of the wireless network by connecting this way. Some of the advantages, I think we've just talked about one of them. So we're amplifying that signal over the air. So you're not having to plug this device into the internet. You're not having to pay an additional monthly cost for any of the internet services that you might need. It's not taking up bandwidth and pushing you to your limits and forcing you to increase the bandwidth that you have. So again, it's just going to pick up that signal out of the air, bring the outside world in. So no recurring fees again. So this is essentially like you're buying a radio. You get it all tuned up and ready to go, and you turn it on, and it just works from then on. So this is not something that adds anything to your monthly bill. There's no SIM card being activated, so there's no changes there. It's simply a one-time fee. And then we talked about more secure than internet-based solutions. So you've got the reliability, you've got the security of the cellular network that you're on. We're not de-encrypting anything, decrypting anything. It's essentially we're just getting that you're getting your signal, either your phone call or your data, back out to the cellular network without having to be connected to who knows which internet provider. There are no rebroadcasting rights required. So with some amplifiers and repeater solutions, industrial type solutions, you have to go through permits and get the permission from each carrier individually. As I mentioned in the beginning, all of our products have been given blanket consent by all of the tier 1 carriers. So you can go right in, get the amplifier up and running, get it installed. It'll be working whether or not you've done the registration, but there is a registration process afterwards that you do with your carrier. Each carrier has a spot on their website that you can register the booster at. And then I think probably one of the most important aspects of our amplifiers is the interoperability here. So we are amplifying all of the spectrum that the FCC allows us to outside. So really all of the tier 1 carriers, with the exception of a couple bands here and there, we are amplifying all of that simultaneously. So every one of the carriers has spectrum that we are amplifying. And it does it simultaneously, it does it seamlessly. Anyone that's using a phone or a connected device within the range of our equipment is getting that benefit. So I think that's really important when you're talking about first responders and being able to communicate with other teams, maybe teams that they don't know, they're not necessarily using the same carrier. So we think that it's really important that everybody can talk to each other no matter what the situation is, no matter what the carrier is.
And Tom, can I interject here for a second? This is Ed Mills. This is actually one of the things that has been, as we've gone around and, part of what we do is to our stakeholders, we socialize technologies that can help people solve problems that they have now. And that is one of the things that is most attractive. And at least on for example, like on the Sleek model, they've made the form factor of what takes your cell phone they've made it so that I've tried multiple devices, and I can each one of those devices I can get them in there. There's a real simplicity to it. It's just merely putting it in and sliding it up, and it fits, and then the form factor just hugs to the phone, which again gives you that interoperability. The other thing too that I don't see on the slide, maybe you could talk to this, Tom, just for a second, is for me it's the simplicity of the installation, because a lot of our stakeholders here in the state of Colorado, they might have a shop where they can take the vehicle in and get the equipment installed. But for me, from the very moment I took any one of your products out of the box, it was very simple. Each piece that I handled had a sticker on it and told me where it went and what it was used for. So could you talk about the simplicity of the installation?
Yeah, thanks, Ed. I appreciate that. That's a great comment. So we do all of our products, especially the ones that we have here that we're presenting today. They're all very simple to install. They're do-it-yourself. Essentially, on the vehicle kits, there's the majority of them have a magnetic antenna that can go up on the roof, and you just tuck some cable back in, and you can you can secure the amplifier either through Velcro or even just have it on the floor. So a lot of people use that our vehicle equipment. It's interchangeable. They can move it from fleet car to squad car to rental car to whatever it might be. So that's very simple. And then on our in-building side as well, we've got, depending upon the size, we've got equipment on the small side that essentially you're just putting an antenna on the outside, picking up, finding the area that has the best signal, which is really, there's several apps you can use to walk around and pick up and detect where the best signal is coming from. And that's essentially the hardest part of that, and that's really pretty simple. And then you're running some cable back inside, plugging in the amplifier right into the wall, and you're set to go. So it is very user friendly. We've also got a great YouTube channel that goes over our Wilson Pro and our WeBoost equipment. That WeBoost equipment is typically our residential brand of Wilson boosters, and then our Wilson Pro is either small business or all the way on up, or luxury homes and small business all the way on up to full commercial. So when you get up above a certain range, like kind of the 5,000-10,000 square feet, we're going into the pro equipment, and we do have a nationwide network of integrators and installers that can come out and make sure that the job's done right for some of the really larger ones. So when you're getting up into the larger spaces, we do have that option. But certainly a lot of the products we talk about here today can be installed by anybody.
Thanks, Tom.
Okay. We'll just go into the mobile products first. So these are a few of our flagship products here. And Ed mentioned the Drive Sleek. This is our cradle product. So essentially we have either single user boosters for the vehicle, or we have multi-users. So where you'll have an indoor antenna that can send signal out and fill the car and get multiple users, or larger devices like iPads and stuff that won't fit directly into the cradle. But starting with the Drive Sleek, so it's a cradle style single user product. So you do have the magnetic antenna on the left there that sits on the roof. You tuck some cable back in. I like to put it through the trunk. Some people put it through the seal of the door. However you prefer to do it, you can run that back in. The amplifier is the long rectangular device next to it. So that's an amplifier which can discuss in Velcro. You can put it under a seat or in the trunk, and then that cable will run directly into that cradle. So that cradle now doubles as the inside antenna. It really is the broadcasting antenna on the inside. So it has an antenna coupler in there instead of broadcasting out to the whole car. Whatever you put in there, a phone or a hotspot, will pick up that signal enhancement right there. So Jetpack's a very popular item to put in there besides just using phones. So 23 dB gain, which is not as powerful as the ones to the right, the Drive 4GX, but all of that gain does go essentially right in through the antenna coupler, and you get that without it, which minimizes any path loss that you might get from an indoor antenna. So that MSRP is $199.99 on that one. The Drive 4GX, this is really our flagship once we introduced this one. This is the most powerful amplifier in a move that the FCC allows in a moving vehicle. It has the highest gain, the highest uplink and downlink that the FCC allows. So this has an indoor antenna. You still have the outside magnetic antenna that goes on the roof, but then the indoor antenna on the upper left there, that'll fill a car or a truck cab about 3 to 5 feet or so in every direction, depending upon how strong of a signal it's picking up on the outside. But so this one, if you're using multiple devices or you want to get connection to other devices in the car, like your laptop, the mobile command station that you might have installed in a squad car, say for instance, you get signal to everything in the car. And then one of our newest products, I believe our newest product, the Drive 4GX Fleet, just out this year. So this is the same amplifier, but we've got an NMO antenna for the roof now, and it's a fantastic antenna, and this is professionally installed. So you're actually putting a hole in the roof, you're drilling this in, putting an antenna in, running the cables through, all hidden above all the upholstery and everything, and then this will be powered directly into the ignition. So you'll wire this directly up to the ignition. So you won't really see any wires at all other than that indoor antenna. So this is a new one that's out, as I said, and addresses the fleet. So squad vehicles or any type of fleet vehicles that you want the professional install. You don't want wires in there of any kind, and you're not planning on moving it around from vehicle to vehicle. Okay, also, which we thought this would be of use, that 4GX is so popular that we've created several other iterations of it. Essentially, all using the same amplifier, but having different antenna configurations to meet different needs and to meet different installation challenges. So OTR for the truckers and buses. You think about, mobile command driving stations at a large, say like a police bus. You're going to want that antenna to be up high enough that it's up above the roof of the bus, so you've got signal coming in from all different directions. So this antenna can be modified with I believe 3 different lengths. And it's got different ways to mount onto the vehicle, whether you're using mirror or different mounts that different vehicle manufacturers have on there. So that's the OTR. And we have a version of that for the single user as well, for the Sleek. So different price points: $499 on the OTR 4GX, and then $279 on the Drive Sleek. So if it's just a single user, you just want to make sure, like Ed was talking about, he was using the Cradle product. This is a great one for that if you've got a larger vehicle. Something else that we came out with recently, it's been very popular on the RV side. We have a few different products for the RVers, and I bring this one up because I think it applies to the public safety, public sector channel in a really meaningful way. The WeBoost Connect RV65 it's for a trailer, but it's for a fixed one. It's not going to be moving around. As I mentioned before, the 4GX is the most powerful that's allowed in a moving vehicle by the FCC, but it's still not as powerful as in-building boosters are. So this one, since you're going to be fixed and staying in one location, you can actually use a more powerful booster here. And this one ships with a 7-foot pole that telescopes out to 25 feet. So within minutes, you can have a 25-foot mast, a little network going in a disaster relief scenario or a remote work post, whatever it might be. This is a great way to make sure that you've got the best signal possible, and it's a very simple, easy setup. So, although it's still called an RV65, and that's the way that that it will look like online, I think this has got a lot of meaningful, a lot of great purposes for the public safety channel. Our in-building solution. So essentially, I've got the products up here just so you know. I think let me know that a lot of people that might be listening to this are familiar with our in-building amplifiers. So I'm not going to go through every SKU. Essentially, all of our products, they do the same thing, but they'll do it for different ways. They'll do it for different sizes. And some of our Wilson Pro carrier grade, commercial grade type of products have more sophisticated filters and can operate in more extreme conditions. But essentially, we really have something for every different size. So just some products to be aware about on our Wilson Pro high-end amplifiers. The Pro 4000, that one's got 4 ports on it. So now that's actually 4 individual amplifiers, all powered independently. So one outdoor antenna going into this thing can cover up to about 100,000 square feet. Put in about 4 indoor antennas on each one of those. So in larger spaces, you're still able to cover up to 100,000 square feet with just one outdoor antenna. And then our Pro 1000 is kind of our flagship in the commercial products, covering around 35,000 square feet. And then the 1050, if this is for applications where you've got where you've got a really long run to get from the outdoor antenna to some other place. So maybe you've got a police station deep inside of an elementary school or a high school, something like that, and you're trying to run this cable, maybe say 600 feet from the outdoor antenna. Normally, we try to keep the runs to about 300 feet. In this case, there's a little inline amplifier that can go in there and it'll compensate up to another 300 feet. So now you can get into those hard to reach places underground or deep inside of buildings with no windows. And also new for us is this Pro 1000C that I wanted you to be aware of. So a lot of folks talk to us about remote monitoring and whether or not they can see their amplifiers to know whether how is it performing, or to see did it turn off at any certain time, or can I go in there and tinker with it. So this is our first product that addresses the first of its kind on the market, where we're actually able to do this remote monitoring now. And it's not through, it's the innovative part of this is that we're actually doing this through an LTE chip. So you can talk through to the cloud to this device, and then you can see, you can get alarms. You can set alarms to see when it's going on or off, or you are able to go in there and change some settings, turn it off if you need to. And that's new out there, and it's something that certain customers have been saying that they really want to be able to have that. So wanted you to be aware that that's new and available now. Typical, this is probably what you've seen before. If you've installed our equipment, our Pro 70, this is in a lot of 5,000 to 7,000 type square foot areas, maybe a little bit larger, maybe a little bit less. So up to 35,000, depending upon the outside signal strength and how many antennas you're using on the inside. You can cover up to 35,000 with this. And then on our Weeboo side, as I said, is more of a residential amplifier, but we use these in a lot of smaller spaces too. So the Connect 4G is great for trailers, small remote places that you're trying to cover. These will typically cover a 2,500 to 5,000 square foot house, and that's where this would normally be going in. But great for 3 to 4 rooms or trailer size buildings or sites that you might be using. And the Connect 4GX is larger than that, so that one typically is for a full home or a luxury home, just something kind of getting you up into where the Wilson Pro category takes over. So really, once you're over 5,000 square feet, it's where we typically, or if you have a lot of users, we typically recommend you just go right into the Wilson Pro. It's going to have better filters. It's going to work in more extreme environments. And then finally, this is something that I think will have a lot of applications for you as well. So we do have an amplifier that I talked about a little bit about at the beginning. So our M2M and our IoT solutions, the amplifier. So the Signal 4G, this is an inline booster that will go in between an outdoor antenna and some type of an M2M or IoT device. So routers, anything connected routers. I know the mobile command stations in a lot of vehicles, that's got some type of router in there that's using LTE to talk back to your carrier. This will provide a 15 dB boost directly into that device. So it's not going to give other people in the car the signal benefit, but if what you're really just trying to do is make sure that your laptop can communicate and the other, whatever equipment you have that's relying on a cellular connection, then the Signal 4G go right into there. The antennas to the right of it, so we have various antennas. That's typically you just put in the Omni antenna, the mag mount antenna that's similar with our vehicle antennas. But in more extreme environments, you might want to upgrade to the Omni antenna on the left there. It's got a higher gain. And then also we have our Yagi antennas on the bottom there, directional antennas that you can use to point directly to a tower. So that's got the highest gain of all. You do need to figure out where that signal is coming from, which you can either do through troubleshooting or you can, or maybe you just know where it is, but then that does provide you the best gain. And so sometimes in the remote monitoring equipment, you might only need an antenna going into that device, and then sometimes you might add the Signal 4G in between. So at $249.99, this is very easily, it's affordable and easily deployed, rapidly deployed. Anybody can install this, and it does provide a quality 15 dB boost to that device. That is a snapshot of our product portfolio for the public sector channel. We do have more devices and that, but I think those are a lot of the ones that really apply. Again, Wilson Pro being for commercial buildings and for our IoT M2M equipment, and WeBoost being for our residential, and all of our vehicle units fall under that category. That's it right now. If there's any questions, you can open it up.
So one of the questions that keeps coming back while everybody's formulating their questions is, I've had several people contact me about your return policy. But while you're thinking about your response on that, I just wanted to say that Tom and Wilson Electronics has been very gracious. And what they've done for our stakeholders is they've provided a couple of models, the Drive Sleek and the Drive 4GX, for any of our stakeholders in Colorado that are interested in using the technology, going out and drive testing, and figuring out how well it's boosting signals where you have problematic spots. So at any point, you can either send anyone from our team a message that you'd like to get either the Drive Sleek or the Drive 4GX in your possession, and we'll figure out a way to get that out to you. But that has been extremely helpful, and so we appreciate that, Tom. But what if there's a user out there where he says, I'm having trouble, I just need anything? Is there a way that they can get that? And what's your return policy if for some reason, I bought the Sleek, but I think maybe I need that Drive 4GX because I have different needs?
Yeah, thanks. So our return policy is, we understand that you're not going to always have signal on the outside that we can amplify. So sometimes you do have to try. So really, if there is no signal out there, we can't amplify a zero. You're just multiplying by zero, and nothing's going to happen. So we know that. So we typically do a 30-day money-back guarantee on all of those products. If anything, that requires, that covers all the hardware and everything. If you did have a professional installation, then that's something you work out with the integrator on that. But yeah, all of our products come with a 30-day. Our WeBoost equipment has a 2-year warranty, and our Wilson Pro is the 3-year. So that's our policy. But I think as far as the warranty, 2 and 3 years. But I think what you're really getting at is there a grace period for you to test the product out? And yes, there is. So,
yeah, I think that's the heart of the question, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's, there's more and more, there's pretty good signal, in a lot of the places that people are. On the in-building side, you've got a lot of you've got a lot of places where there is signal, but it just can't penetrate the building. It's got a lot of metal buildings out there. We've got a lot of environmentally friendly buildings out there. So that's the typical case. And we're able to, whenever there's some signal out there, if you can use the phone on the outside, you get it in. On the vehicle, again, people think that there's pretty good coverage everywhere. On most highways there is, but as you mentioned, sometimes you're going way back out there, and you're pretty far off the grid. The 4GX certainly gets really far out there. I've been able to use it where my phone is saying I've got a red X and there's no coverage whatsoever. Go inside the car, turn the car on, get your phone as close as you can to the indoor antenna, and you might be in a situation where you can pick up a bar suddenly and be able to pull up a map or a weather alert or something along those lines. So, but it does not work in every situation. So we do have that 30-day grace period.
Yeah, one of our chiefs in the area actually used the Drive 4GX, and if I recall correctly, this is kind of like your public safety offering. You believe this is one of those things that will help a lot of the agencies across the state. But as the chief used the Drive 4GX, he said that places where calls would normally get dropped or he would not be able to pull up information, he was able to get very quickly. And just to that point, let me also say, so I've used it now for several months, and I always think as a responder that I've learned the strategy that when that tone goes out and when the map gets sent to my device, that I'll do it while I have a connection. It'll download the maps and I'll get the driving directions. But it was about a month and a half ago where we were actually out on a structure fire. And as soon as that structure fire had concluded, we had a CPR in progress that actually went over. In those times, I didn't have the luxury of finding a network where I could get the downloaded maps or whatever. And it just dawned on me, I'm just going to put it in the cradle and boom, if the map didn't download and the directions didn't come. And so in that context, I mean, it potentially means saving lives because of that. So anyway, I've become a big believer, and I guess to Tom's point too, there are going to be those situations. All technology has an Achilles heel from time to time, whether it be a mountain there or it be trees or whatever it is. So anyway, I just know from my experience that it has helped me immensely in places where I couldn't normally get cell phone coverage. So Tom, we have a question that's actually a couple questions here. And we have somebody who'd like you to say something about the regulatory issues, like the FCC rules, registering devices with the operator, and things around that nature.
Okay. Sure. So, and first of all, thank you for the kind words. That we love our products here, and there's a few product people in here, and I think that they really love to hear. We know they work. We love to hear when stories like that where people are finding real world cases, especially when it's from a first responder and saving lives. That's great to hear. So really appreciate that. As far as the regulatory issues go, so we did talk a little bit about that in the beginning. We've got the blanket consent from the network. So they've all consented, from the tier 1 carriers have consented for the use of these. So that complies, all of our boosters that have been sold since 2014 comply with the network protection standards that were set forth by the FCC. So everything is compliant. Anything that you use is ready to go. There is a registration process that it's actually it's the duty of the end user to register the booster with their carrier. So it's something that I'm happy to get you the links for that for each of the carriers. It's something they go on, and usually when you go on to the register your booster site, it's a little bit different with each carrier, but essentially it's usually in their support page. It asks you to then log in. So the person that logs in has the account manager that pays the bills and adds lines and takes away lines. It's really through that process, and then they can just put in their address. And it's really just a courtesy to the carrier so that they know where these products are, gives them information about where there might be coverage gaps in their areas, as well as it protects you. So if somebody does happen to be using something that's a rogue device that is interfering with the network, and the network team comes to you, they'll know that the equipment that you have is legitimate equipment that meets all these rules, and it's fine, and it's operating the way it's supposed to be, and they need to go look for what the real problem is. So there's a lot of benefits and reasons to register, but it is on the end users themselves to make sure that happens.
Well, thanks for that explanation. I'll just say in general terms, any of that information that you can send to us, again, part of our role here at the Colorado Broadband Office is to help our stakeholders negotiate, various things like that. So if you could send us that information, it would be greatly appreciated. There was a second part to that, to the person who'd asked a question, and I know that you've touched on this as well, but maybe you could go into a little more detail, either yourself or somebody else, and on your side. The question is, and again, as you said, we boost. The Wilson products are carrier agnostic, which is, again, it's just, from my experience, it's one of the key things that people are looking for. In fact, before I ask a question, let me just state this. I actually went to all the big carriers like AT&T, Verizon, Sprint, T-Mobile, and I asked them, I said, can you give us suggestions on boosters that would boost cell signals? And every one of them came back and said, we boost. And so we know that they're your carrier agnostic, but the question is, which cellular bands do you support, and what is the maximum uplink transmit power in dBm?
Hi, this is Jeff Gudevich, head of product. So I'll jump in and add a little color to that. So currently under the FCCs, all of our products, they are carrier agnostic and broadband. So they enhance the cellular bands 2, 4, 5, 12, and 13. So those cover all the traditional legacy, 850, 1900, 2100, and then the newer 700 megahertz LTE bands. So they cover all of those simultaneously as well. So like Tom showed, some of those multi-user products, one of the benefits there is that you can have multiple people with handsets or devices from simultaneous different operators, and they will all be enhanced at the same time. So it's a great benefit there. And then your other question as far as transmit power. So by the FCC, we are required to operate no more than 30 dBm EIRP, which is the radiated power coming out of the antenna. So that's the absolute maximum power that we're allowed to transmit out of the donor antenna back to the cell phone tower. And so depending on the gains and the cable length and everything, those all vary slightly. But, typically, we're putting out, under a half watt of transmit power on a lot of the mobile devices. And one of the key features, as I'll just allude to there, is, in a mobile environment, one of the really important safety features is you're constantly, and hopefully, you're in motion. And so you're always driving towards or away from a tower. And so, our devices, every single band is sensing the received power levels, basically determining how close you are to a tower. So, it's basically, I think it's like 300 times a second, roughly, we're sensing what the outdoor environment is. And our amplifiers are automatically adjusting, making sure that we're constantly dynamically adjusting to stay within the limits, no matter if you're right up against the tower or if you're miles away and can't even see it. So our products will dynamically adjust without even having to think about it, just depending on how the outside environment adjusts. So I hope that answered your questions for you.
Great, thank you. Do we have any other questions from anybody else on the line or in the room?
All right, I think you got all the questions answered, so that's good job.
Awesome. Well, it was fantastic, and it was certainly our pleasure to have Tom and the team on. And again, we want to state very clearly that, we're here to help you solve problems, find solutions for those problems. And one of the things that we see is that Wilson Electronics may be a good fit for your agency. And if so, please let us know. We'll help you. And as I said earlier, Tom and Wilson Electronics has donated just for our use so that we can get them in your hands, the Drive Sleek and the Drive 4GX. And so if you're interested in those, one of the things that we've done, like with the Drive 4GX, is we've put it in a Pelican case with a battery that's internalized. And so all you have to do is keep that battery charged, and you can get 3 or 4 hours of run time without any electricity. But those are available to you. Just let any one of our team members know, or our general box. And then and we will make sure that we figure out a way to get that to you. But if there are no other questions, I want to thank.
Yeah, there is one. Somebody asked me. In a commercial building, or actually in a public safety building, we can envision some of these devices running 24/7, because they have tablets and people here, all the day. So what's the mean time between failure for some of these devices?
Good question.
Yeah, so this is Jeff Gudevich again. So each device is a little different, obviously, right? So I can't really answer that, but it's definitely, in the hundreds of thousands of hours, tens of thousands of hours. We've had product in the field for well over 3 or 4 years without incident. So yeah, these are meant to be, powered up, installed, put in place. And so as long as you have some outside signal, as Tom mentioned, to amplify, and you have a continuity and line power, the devices are very, very rugged and reliable.
That's good, because the concern is if they're running 24/7, they don't shut down very much, and they get hot and burn up the electronics. So I guess you got that covered.
Yeah, that's a good point. And yeah, I think it's in most solid state electronics, right? The actual biggest failure point is cycling them on and off. And so it's actually, pretty safe to have them, powered on all the time. But there is another feature that's part of the FCC operations. It's called squelch. And so what all of our devices do is in a building, particularly at night when everybody goes home, the inside antennas are constantly searching for a cell phone in the building that's trying to talk back to the tower. And so what they do is they will go into a partial shutdown mode where if they don't sense any active cell phones inside the building, then the unit does back off. It won't go completely asleep, but it does back off into a squelch mode. So there is a little bit of shutdown in all of our products actually.
The concern here was it's just the opposite because I work in a dispatch center, so it's just constantly going. So, but no, it's a good point.
Yeah,
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Great. Yeah.
Any other questions? Well, again, thank you to Wilson Electronics. We thank you for what you do, and we thank you for taking some time out to be featured in this Colorado Broadband Office Lunch and Learn. Anyway, if we don't talk to you before then, because we'll go on a hiatus for our Lunch and Learn until sometime later part of January. We hope that you have happy holidays, and thank you for attending today. Take care.
Thank you very much, everyone. Happy holidays.